Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second part in my ENA lore series, where today I talk about the game, ENA Dream BBQ. Now I'm going to try and keep this intro shorter than last time, but if you have not played ENA's Dream BBQ or seen the ENA show or seen my first part to this theory series, you should do all three, as it gives you very important context. As always, the links for my references and for my PDF is down in the description below, so you can peruse at your heart's content. And about the disclaimer at the beginning of this video, don't worry, nothing graphic's going to be shown. I'm just going to be mentioning topics that are going to be kind of heavy. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the theory. Alright, now getting into the theory, we first need to figure out what exactly ENA Dream BBQ is. This game takes place back in ENA's home city in Lima, Peru. ENA's parents have passed away and ENA has decided to work for their international stockbroker company. Now in the starting area, we see up in the sky someone swimming. Now this represents when ENA is high on drugs. Now in one of the buildings, we can find a sleeping mannequin, a member of the town who has died of drug abuse. He is said to be taking a nap, but he is dead since he is a mannequin. Now exploring this strange town, we can see that it represents ENA's hometown in Peru, eerily empty due to it being so early in the morning. On the roof of one of these buildings, we can see a red flea. It is probably a resident of ENA's town who notices how little water ENA is drinking, alcohol instead of water, and it likely represents a small child. Now, if you wander around, you can occasionally see these eyes, which represent the judging eyes of ENA's community. Now, after a while, you find a bed. This shows how ENA stays up late and does drugs and alcohol. And then she walks back to her house very early in the morning and sleeps until she needs to go to work. This is why she is so angry during the day, because she is suffering from her hangover. Now, this area that we're taken to is what appears to be a casino, except this is not a casino. It represents ENA's stockbroker company. This shows how investing in and buying stocks is an advanced form of gambling. The gambling machines are initially non-functional. This shows how this particular office is closed until ENA arrives. The models on the slot machines represents how much money and savings are eaten up by gambling. The game even says that the slot machines feed on hope. Now, this is when we get our first good look at ENA. Now, who is ENA in this game? Because clearly she's changed since the show. The red and white on her represent the flag of Peru. The blue represents some sadness still present within her, and is also a nod to her American heritage. She has returned home to Peru to work for the international stockbroker company her parents worked for. The hat represents her as an employee of the company. She is less prone to depressive episodes, with her sad side being replaced by the meanie side. This shows how she is keeping her emotions under control using alcohol and drugs. She takes drugs to fuel her current addictions and to let go of the pain of war, and she keeps herself by acting out too much and keeps her manic side at bay with heavy drinking. ENA can be mean and irritable because she is in a near constant hangover. However, she still manages to keep the fake, happy version of herself in control for most of the time. However, this version of her has also changed. The happy face is now much more focused on business opportunities. This shows how she has lost so much innocence because now she can be only three things. She is either a crazed bipolar drug addict, an irritable drunkard, or a corrupt business person. ENA frequently engages in deceptive practices to appease her company. That's explained later. Now, in this hub area, we can see that ENA speaks in business jargon and talks about investing in your future.
What are your pain points? What's your problem? What are our business struggles today? Let me help you invest in your future.
ENA has a history of pyramid schemes, as mentioned by Froggy, ENA's manager. This shows how corrupt her business strategies truly are. She has an alternate motive for finding the boss, which I'll explain later, and she uses religious references frequently throughout the game. This is one of ENA's many deceptive tactics to get people to buy stocks. She will pretend to be a member of any applicable religion that her clients are a part of in order to get them to buy stocks. Now, one of the first characters we meet is someone called Dracula. He is one of ENA's co-workers. He's aiming for a promotion and wants nothing more than to become the CEO of the company, hence why he claims he is the boss. And anyone in this game who claims that they are the boss are trying to be the boss but cannot be. His being a vampire represents how he is hiding, with his mask, that he is a blood-sucking corporate scumbag who will lie, cheat, and backstab to become the boss. He also figured out where the boss was and how to get to him. He likely knows ENA's ulterior motives, as I'll explain later, and wants to help ENA get to the boss. He also insists that he is not a penguin. This is likely a reference to the Penguin from Batman. This shows how he is secretly a scummy criminal attempting to take over the company and make money, and ENA can see right through him. Now we meet another one of the main characters for this game, and that is Froggy, ENA's manager. He wishes to help ENA find her boss and is one of the very few people ENA will come in contact with who is not actually a bad person. He is Japanese, which makes sense since Peru is among the top 3, excluding Japan, most Japanese populous countries in the world. He is a frog because, if you remember the spinning frog from the first video, he is likely a figure of authority and respect to ENA, in a good way this time. He does not like Dracula. He also says to ENA that they finally found the boss's location and are aiming for his gut in this mission. He says that this is the greatest work target yet. However, the boss is locked behind strange cigarette smoke that ENA must clear before she can get to him. This smoke represents the bureaucracy and corporate structure that ENA must get through in order to get to the boss. I theorize that Froggy has a bold new business proposition that he wishes to present to the boss and wants it to be approved. Froggy, being allergic to this cigarette smoke, complains how he does not like corporate bureaucracy. He is also somewhat lazy. Now, if we look up in the sky in this area, we can see a giant eye. And if you remember from my last video, I explained that the eye is ENA's last moment of sanity looking in the mirror before her drugged self takes over. Now, this hub area seems to be in the middle of a blood ocean with corpses floating in it. This represents the losses of gambling and drowning in a sea of debt. Now, we can also see around here lantern men. These represent the spokespeople for the company. Now, over off to the side, if we go back through the casino, we can see a blood fountain. The game says this blood is only for decoration. Since the blood in the other part of the hub represents debt, all blood in this game likely represents debt. Now, throughout the game, we see these blob men. These represent customers of ENA's company. They want to gamble away their savings into stocks. Now, one thing in this game is that if you pause, a random image will flash and stay on screen until you unpause. These pause menu images can get rather dark and are actually quite intimidating to look at. And these represent flashbacks to dark times in ENA's life. Most of these will be explained throughout my theory. Likely what happens is anytime ENA goes to sleep, or even closes her eyes for that matter, she can see flashbacks to war and other moments in her life. Now, also throughout the game, you'll see these weird pants men. These represent employees who have been fired from the company. And then you can also see these things, who represent current investors in the company. Now, our current mission is to talk to the receptionist to find a way to get rid of the smoke. Now, this receptionist is the second best character in the whole game. She gives you dialogue options and lore. A lore finder's best friend. She is a low poly figure with many TV screens, which she cherishes. Since this game is a massive metaphor for addiction, she likely represents someone who is addicted to TV. She is also addicted to wealth and status and is deeply offended when ENA tells her that she is poor. She says that the boss isn't even born yet. This means, in reality, that the boss has not been keen on making public appearances and wants to stay private. She says that genies run the doors and doors are very sacred. But what are genies in this game? You're going to hear these a lot. Genies represent people from ENA's childhood who were good influences on her and who she looks up to. Genies typically grant wishes, and ENA's greatest wish, as explained later, is to seek forgiveness for all she has done by the people she looks up to. Now, since these genies possess doors, it's time to talk about the doors that we find. First up is the Lonely Door. This is run by genies that are members of ENA's family. The receptionist says that this door will never leave you. Since ENA's family isn't here, we can speculate that the last members have died, leaving ENA the last of her bloodline. One of ENA's wishes is to please her family in spirit. The receptionist says that this door takes you to the rest of the game and that all the excitement this door brings makes you want to use the bathroom. We have already determined that this is where ENA goes to do drugs, therefore ENA's pursuit of her family's admiration is pushing her to use drugs more. This door also swallows ENA to take her to the next area. But before doing that, we can see a crowd door hidden behind some yellow tape. This is the door to somewhere where you can win fabulous VIP tickets to meet someone called Piero the Genie. However, ENA is banned from this door. This likely represents some sort of celebrity that ENA looked up to. Maybe ENA even knew the celebrity personally. However, with all that ENA has done, the celebrity has banned ENA from meeting with him. Now in the hub area, we can see a horse door. It has a dream catcher above it that says it's out of order. It was operated by a genie who is dead now. A new genie is on its way. This door likely represents friendships with ENA. All of ENA's best friends have died, and so now she's looking to reconnect with another one. It appears that, since there are plans for a large welcoming party for the new genie, ENA's other best friend is likely arriving to work for the company. Now, after talking to the receptionist and coming back into the hub area, we can see that new characters have appeared. Like this guy. His name is Kane, and he, too, claims to be the boss. He is Russian-speaking, and originally appears as a piggy bank, but is broken open by a meteor. He is made of a Japanese currency. It appears the company that ENA worked for is headquartered in Japan, and the Peru office is likely just a branch. He is likely another employee who is also trying to become boss. He is trying to reach the bathroom, and also wants to party illegally. He is likely a Russian who is obsessed with money and parties. He is also likely going to the same place that ENA is going to get drugs, yet he seems to be failing to get there. He is eventually killed by a meteor if you keep talking to him, likely a member of a Russian cartel he owed too much money to. Now, we come up to my second least favorite character in all of ENA, this Hands guy. Okay, I don't want to talk about this guy very much, so we're just going to make this really quick. He, like everyone else ENA works with, wants to become the boss, and he is stalking ENA, even though he claims he is not. His hands represents how he gets, handsy with his female co-workers, namely ENA, and the string represents how he manipulates women into,
untoward
activities. Thankfully, ENA resists his advances. Now we meet someone called the Secretary. Now she works at ENA's company. She doesn't know what she should do, she's new, so she just runs administration. She is very sweaty and nervous. Her coral eye represents how she communicates via virtual methods. This is backed up by her voice sounding muffled and staticky. She also receives emails and faxes. She is also looking for someone to welcome the new horse door genie. She says that if ENA knows anyone, that ENA should contact her. Her fax number is a data matrix code that can be solved and used later. Now after you talk to the receptionist, you can talk to Froggy again. He says that he has no clue what a genie is. ENA likely said to him that she was looking for people she used to know as a child to reunite with, of which Froggy has no knowledge. He also says that genies are probably the banana smoking types. This is a reference to the pink grenade guy in the YouTube series. You can also call him. If you do, he has dialogue about wanting to drink and play chess with ENA after work. However, he notes that ENA becomes a disaster when she drinks. Now after this, ENA leaves via the lonely door. She is unable to say the word genie anymore, and instead replaced by the word bathroom.
I will provide us with the factual truth about this
This shows how ENA gets distracted from honoring her family's legacy and continues her drug usage. Every time she wants to seek forgiveness, her bipolar self drags her back into her addictions. But okay, enough cryptic cues. I'm explaining my theory so far. For some reason, ENA can't say genie, replacing it with bathroom. Froggy can still say genie and is confused as to why ENA says bathroom. And the other characters who go through the lonely door also cannot say genie. The lonely door represents the path that people want to follow who, like ENA, want forgiveness from their loved ones. However, the lonely door is just a way for people to fall further into their addictions. The entire franchise of ENA is one big metaphor for addiction and the lengths that people will go to satisfy them. Therefore, Froggy wants ENA to search for whatever she needs to gain peace for her family, but also wants her to find a way to get to the boss. ENA saying bathroom instead of genie is ENA getting distracted from her job by her addictions. Froggy wants ENA to reach out to the boss about a bold business strategy. However, ENA wants to kill the boss. Now, why does ENA want to kill the boss? Okay, well, this is when the game and the theory gets really dark. Because ENA's drug addiction has gone so far now, she now works for a cartel based in Peru. She conducts operations, finds new clients, and takes care of problems for the cartel. ENA is pretty high up the chain of command. The ship in the main area that serves as your entrance to the rest of the game represents giant freighters that smugglers use to smuggle contraband across the ocean. The fact that the cartel ENA works for has access to such a thing means that it is a very big cartel. Now, ENA's real reason for joining her parents' work is so that ENA can have a job masking her illegal work, and also so that she can find more clients. ENA, when presented with a potential investor for the company, does loads of research on that person. ENA then, if she thinks it's appropriate, will not only offer investment opportunity, but also drugs and other illegal contraband. She then uses her legit job to enhance her work for the cartel. Most of the characters you see in this game are either members of the cartel or ENA's clients. ENA's real motivation for reaching the boss, as hinted later in the game, is to kill him. Likely, the boss has unpaid debts to the cartel and he must be punished. Now, in the ship, we can find multiple things, like these strange pot things. These are explained in more detail later, but they represent the genie of the lonely door. And looking outside of a stained glass window in the ship, we can see this thing. Now, you can't just run an international drug cartel without attracting suspicion from government agencies. Likely, the cartel ENA works for is being monitored by a triple threat: the FBI, DEA, and CIA. For this video, and for repetition's sake, I'll refer to this three-headed serpent as the FDC. This thing represents the three government organizations working together and monitoring ENA and the cartel. The radio that this thing is speaking represents the encoded messaging between the three organizations, and the multiple heads on it represent the multiple organizations. Now, one thing I want to talk about is a secret area. This area can be accessed by entering the taxi before giving the taxi driver his head back. And then you find this guy. Who could forget this guy? Now, this is all a scene from ENA's dream of the perfect life. A calm seaside town with a handsome husband. If only she could be so lucky. Now, if you look around the seaside town, you can find the entrance to a maze. And if you complete the maze, you find a luxury gift shop. This place represents some of the things that ENA wants to be liked more by others. This area is only accessible via a maze, representing the effort that ENA puts in to be liked by others. And it ties in with her dreams as she wishes to be popular, yet, as the owner says, my products won't make you truly beautiful. The owner is a French woman who gives ENA good advice. Trying to make yourself look good on the outside will not fix anything on the inside. ENA wants the woman's products, but she does not have the money for it. Now, another secret area I want to mention is an area you can find at the top of the ship. This is a very creepy area, for multiple reasons. Up until now, you might have been feeling sorry for ENA. Oh, how sad that ENA's disease has caused her so much anguish, and if only she would get help so that she could have a good life. Those might be your thoughts. However, the deeper I dig into this game, the more and more I dislike ENA. There is only so far the I am bipolar excuse can get you. This area of the ship shows the terrible living conditions on board a human smuggling ship. These are men, women, and children stowed away behind false walls being used as drug mules, illegal workers, and sex slaves. This is the dark truth behind ENA. She has done horrible, horrible things to feed her addictions. This is why she cannot find forgiveness, because the actions she has committed are unforgivable. Now, moving on to the rest of the game, we enter an area known as the Uncanny Streets. This represents ENA's home city of Lima, Peru. Now, on one of the buildings, we can see a very big, creepy guy. This person represents a member of the cartel who was caught by authorities, brutally disciplined and made an example of. This is supported by ENA speaking with him, and he says, "A disturbing relief awaits me." This refers to how the truth shall set you free, although it cost him everything. Staring at him for long enough causes ENA to blink, making ENA feel too human, as explained by the achievement. ENA looked at how he got out of the cartel life. Although he lost basically everything, ENA can't help but imagine a life outside of crime and addiction. Next, we meet a horse guy, and this is my true least favorite character in all of ENA. It's this guy, the hands guy, and then the genie guy. You see, this person is the self-proclaimed representative of these strange children you can find lost around the map. It is implied that he wants to eat them. If ENA finds all of his children, he gives ENA money. In reality, ENA is stealing children for a buyer for the cartel. The things he plans to do to the children, I shudder to think about. The blood these babies leave behind represents how they are physically abused. He also uses babies and pets interchangeably, showing his lack of care for them. This shows the true depths of the evil things ENA has done to further her addictions. Next up, we meet an Italian rat. It represents a thief that ENA meets. He used to work in a morgue, however he was caught stealing body parts and was fired. This explains his backed out eyes because cadavers often have their eyes shown shut. The bug man who is watching him represents an agent of the FDC. When ENA revives him, she likely rescues him from an FDC ambush. If ENA does not intervene, he is caught and arrested, put into a deep sleep. There is a file near him that can be continuously compressed until it explodes. This represents a classified case file he had stolen. This file likely belongs to the FDC, hence why the FDC decided to spy on him. The file exploding represents some sort of self-destruct system in the file. The other stuff around the rat is not lore important. Joel G explained that much of this stuff is unused content from various projects. Next up, we find these three witches. We have established that witches are high-ranking cartel members. These witches are looking for their friend who is across the bridge. The witches also seem to have versions of themselves that leave their bodies. This shows how these cartel members can become soulless to commit their crimes. The witch on the right can transform into a cat. This means that that witch is probably a master of disguise and works for the cartels using fake personas. Eventually, ENA gets across the bridge and has to rescue the fourth witch with a crane. She likely got captured by authorities and needed ENA's help to escape. After ENA helps them, the witches give her a motherboard. This is explained later. The witches also say that they have to get to a funeral quickly, and then they leave. This likely means that these witches are sicarios, hitmen for the cartel. Next, we see some sort of house guy. He represents a spy for the cartel ENA works for. He mentions how the sky creatures, the FDC, took the taxi driver's head, which I will talk about later. Next, we see this lady, who is actually pretty important. Represents someone who wishes to work for ENA's company as an event planner. She likely represents someone who ENA knew, likely a distant friend, when she was younger. She appears to also be bipolar. You can find her in the maze leading to the gift shop. Likely, ENA saw that she suffered from bipolar 1 disorder and attempted to help her by showing her narcotics and beauty products. The girl would have been fine on her own. She was even seeing a psychologist, as explained by the secretary. However, ENA corrupted her and got her addicted to substances. This only made things worse, as she even said, "I hate bathrooms."
I hate bathrooms.
This shows that ENA is also very manipulative. She's also found in the Purge event, which I will talk about later. Now you might be looking at this image I just pulled up, and you might wonder what on earth it is. I mean, after all, this doesn't even appear in the game, does it? Well, actually it does. This is a room that's only able to be accessed by no clipping. However, you can peek into here in the caves. ENA is offering something to a priest with an FDC head. This represents how ENA considers giving cartel secrets up to the authorities in exchange for a political pardon. However, the room is blocked by coral that is from out of this world. This means that ENA is blocked from being pardoned and would only get arrested, interrogated, and convicted of her crimes. Now we meet a shopkeeper. He represents a store owner ENA once knew. The store owner is aware of some of the things ENA has done, and when the store owner confronts ENA, there are flashbacks to a war-torn landscape with bullets raining over ENA.
Guys, wait! I'm not doing what you say I'm doing! I'm not doing anything! I'm not doing anything at all!
This supports my theory that ENA fought in Ukraine. ENA attempts to convince the shopkeeper that she is no longer committing crimes, and the store owner hesitantly only allows ENA to buy one item. ENA buys mayonnaise to put over the bug guy's eyes for the rat. Now there's a chance to see this random character appear. His name is Timothy Rundle, a chemical expert for the cartel. He's not very important. Now if you do some things in the game and you manage to get on top of a building, you can see a cloud. He is looking for his child, which you can find later. I will talk about this child when we get to him. Now it's about time we explain these bug men in a bit more detail. These bug men represent field agents for the FDC. The three sets of eyes they have represents the three government organizations. The fact that he is a bug shows how the FDC acts as a fly on the wall. He holds some sort of spade, which is likely the agent's service weapon. One agent spies on and eventually kills the rat guy. ENA covers that agent's eyes and mail, likely representing ENA covering a hidden camera. The agent takes this as an act of aggression from the rat guy, because he didn't see ENA do it, and kills the rat guy so that he doesn't warn the cartel of FDC presence. However, the rat guy didn't have anything to do with the cartel. He was just a psychotic thief. Therefore, he was killed for no reason. You can also, if you go to the Purge event and do some parkour, see other agents dancing in a circle. This represents a stakeout on the Purge event, as explained later. There's also an agent in the caves whose weapon is dangling off a cliff, and ENA retrieves it. ENA did this to try and shake off suspicion from the FDC. If you go to the Ascend area, you will find many agents around watching you from the rooftops. Since you find the fourth witch in this area, it is likely that she was trying to leak some of the cartel activities to the government. She then faked being lost and had ENA rescue her. Now in the cave area, after doing a few tasks, you can see this guy. He says he's hiding from the civil authorities, and at the end of the game, he is caught. This is a member of the cartel that is caught and killed by the Peruvian government. Now let's talk about the wizard. Since we have discovered that witches and warlocks symbolize high-ranking members of the cartel, the wizard is high in rank as well. He is in a house with a seal head on top of it. Seals can represent prosperity and abundance, meaning that the wizard is rich. He starts with a cryptic saying to ENA, which she seems to understand. This is likely a code set up by the cartel. He also continues to clone himself and destroy his own clones. This represents how he's a con man who helps to scam people into supporting the cartel. Now, about that motherboard that the witches gave us. ENA gives this motherboard to the wizard so that she can get to the Ascend area to go through the Ascend path of this game. After ENA gives the motherboard to the wizard, he sacrifices his clones and explodes his house. He then gives ENA the human board, a board member. In reality, ENA obtained a computing device capable of hacking and used it on the wizard's computer to find dirt on a board member for ENA's company. Once she did that, she blackmailed the board member into getting her to where she wanted to by using his powerful position in the company. The bones ENA's used to grow him to act as a bridge represents the dirt in his past she uses as blackmail. Now, we need to use this human board person to do parkour to get to the Ascend path. During the ascending path, ENA attempts to climb a long way up to reach the bathroom. This path and the Purge event path are similar in their goals, yet not in their methods. You see, the Ascend route explains ENA taking antipsychotics to achieve forgiveness for her actions in her mind by manifesting the memories of her parents. Explained later. As she climbs, it gets colder and stormier. This represents how she likely obtained these antipsychotics from an unlicensed street dealer, and one of the side effects is freezing cold. This will have bigger consequences later. She also sees flying mannequins and the corpses of others along the way. These are people who have tried and failed to use antipsychotics to assist in getting better. ENA also sees a large head causing wind that attempts to push ENA back down the mountain. This is her body and manic self trying to fight off the medication. Once she reaches the top, she sees multiple babies that she can pet and a large head that eats her if she tries to pet it. These are hallucinations of the children ENA has kidnapped, and the large head represents the parents of the children. Froggy attempts to call ENA, but she is incomprehensible and she passes out, waking up in a strange void. However, before we can continue, we must look at the second path that gets us to this same spot. The Purge event path. Now, in order to get to this path, we need to find the taxi driver's head. This taxi driver represents a driver for the cartel. His head was taken by the FDC and put in a cave. His head likely represents the keys to his multiple vehicles. After ENA returns with his head, he offers her a ride to the Purge event, which I will explain later. Interestingly, he mixes up the Purge event and the Extinction Party. This means that the Extinction Parties are common and are performed for those getting initiated into the cartel. Now, once he takes us to the Purge event area, we can see multiple graves on our way to the actual event. These represent the graves of those who have died to narcotic overdoses. Here we are at the infamous Purge event. This is a major plot point of Dream BBQ. This explains much of the lore for ENA. Froggy calls this event illegal. ENA and everyone who wants to go here wants to gain freedom. I will explain more of what this means later. For now, this represents a party that the cartel hosts now and again, and at the party we can find multiple shadow people dancing around. These are people using narcotics at the party. I know that everyone in here is high because ENA needed to drink a liquid before going in. Now there are two lines to enter the party. One line is where most of the people wait to go in. These people likely pay in cash in order to go in. The other line, the line that ENA goes through, has fewer people in it. This line also holds a much darker secret. To enter the party through this line, you need to pay with your body. In the game, this is taken literally, and ENA literally uses her arm. In real life, this has a terrible meaning. ENA likely, in addition to all her other activities for the cartel, gives personal favors out to gain access to what she wants. This is one of the disgusting truths that lie within the bowels of ENA lore. Moving forward, inside the party, there is an out-of-bounds location that has the walls from Extinction Party. This means that ENA likely relapsed on drugs during one of these purge events. A purge event is likely a means for the cartel to offer narcotics to people who attend what is presumed to be a nightclub. They do this in order to get more buyers, dealers, and members. An extinction party is likely the initiation of someone into the cartel and into drug addiction. Now we see these paper things on the wall, and these represent security for the event. We also see this big shadow guy in one of the rooms. He represents the owner of the club. We can also find this red dude. He encourages ENA to follow the whistle and let go. He's encouraging ENA to continue drug usage. Now, in another one of the rooms, we can find a character who appears to fall from a noose in the ceiling. She can only speak using 4-letter words and begins to bleed when she can't think of one. She represents someone who committed suicide to escape the cartel. This shows how far some people are willing to go to escape their problems. After talking to certain characters, the purge event begins flooding with pink liquid, representing the ketamine that ENA took. There is then a message that says, "That whistle sounds hungry." You then wake up in some area with some sort of dog-esque creatures, and ENA also becomes one. This is a nightmare that ENA has regarding the corporate world. The dog things represent cutthroat business managers who do everything they can to come out on top. The whistle mentioned in the beginning refers to the whistle of the factory line and how it hungers for people's labor. In the end, ENA is eaten, meaning that she was likely fired by her boss for getting sidetracked by the purge event. Now we end up back where we left off at the Ascend path, and we see a new ENA. Now ENA wakes up in a dark void, and this is where we see the real ENA. This is the closest image we have of ENA in real life. I mean, minus the giant hole in her chest and the strange colored skin. I actually fed parts of this to an AI to get a general understanding of what ENA would look like in real life. I used both the version of ENA that is the real ENA, and I also used the fact that she is likely a Latino because her mother was from Mali. And this was the photo that it created. Now I have no way of knowing that this is what ENA would look like in real life, considering I don't know what her parents look like. I couldn't figure out what her natural genes would do. I just don't have much of a reference at all, considering this is all cartoons. But this is the best reference we have, so do with it as you wish. Now the hole we see in ENA shows how she has lost her soul due to her addictions. We can see the shattered remains of it, her blocky self, come out of the hole. She explains that she has a headache. The reason why all of this is happening, I will explain in due time. Just bear with me. Now, around this void area, we see these strange samurai creatures. These are the good attributes of ENA that she has sacrificed to her addictions. Now off in the distance, we see a giant toilet. This represents the gateway to the bathroom where ENA normally does her drugs. There is a perilous river that she must cross to reach it. Should she fail, she will fall into an area that we will discuss later. She also acts drunk and has blurry vision when crossing, showing how she drinks heavily before doing drugs. And there is also a large samurai that is vomiting into the river, and tries to make ENA go into it. This represents how ENA sometimes loses control over her body while she's drunk/high. Now, if we make it across this river and make it to the bathroom, this is where we find the infamous bathroom where ENA does her drugs. Many of the items in this room confirm as much. The sink is said to wash the sins off the face. The mirror is said to reflect past and future. The fountain to collect lies. And the trash to collect aspirations. All of these are metaphors for how ENA feels bad deep down about what she is doing. Now, continuing forward, we find the pot thing returning, and she says her name is Theodora. After everything, the drugs that ENA took managed to get her into a state of mind where she was ready to feel forgiven for her past sins. Now, Theodora speaks in Greek. This represents ENA's memory for all those she has respected, specifically her mother. Her mother's name was possibly Theodora. Initially, this memory is ready to forgive ENA, but once Theodora figures out that ENA is the one to be forgiven, she declines. ENA then becomes her blocky, broken self again. However, Theodora admires ENA's determination in coming, so she grants ENA one aspiration. Now, we're actually given a choice here. We have 5 different options. Aspire to receive a blissful life, aspire to get rid of the smoke, aspire for eternal happiness, aspire for someone named Frank's forgiveness, and aspire for the punishment of the moon. Theodora declines all of these except for the smoke request. Interestingly, we see someone named Frank. This will be explained, along with much else, very soon. ENA then requests for Theodora to remove the smoke. Theodora then says that ENA's mind is in conflict with what she says. Theodora then instructs ENA on the location of the source of the smoke. And the one confusing thing that Theodora says before ENA goes away is, "Remember, ENA, all it takes is the right place and the right food." What does this mean? It more effectively means the right place and the right people. Maybe people met at a food gathering, like a barbecue. This is a tip for how ENA can overcome her addictions, by leaving the cartel and seeking people who can make a positive impact on her life. Now, Theodora creates an image of this ballerina spatula lady. In the trailer, we see ENA crawling towards this being. This represents ENA's deepest desires, her real ones. Things that she's wanted to do if she was not corrupted by her addiction. ENA likely wanted to be a chef and/or a ballerina dancer, but her life took her away from those goals. However, Theodora gives ENA advice saying, "Do not let worries and fears betray your true goals, ENA." This is valuable advice. After this, we fall down a well into an area where we see the smoke machine. The source, likely a person, of the bureaucracy for the company ENA works for. ENA then kills whoever it is that controls the bureaucracy and moves on. ENA then goes through warped versions of the bathroom and the purge event, with rain rocks appearing everywhere. If you remember rain rocks, you know that those are the consequences of ENA's actions. I suppose it's time I explained why ENA is here. ENA, either on untrustworthy medication in the Ascend path or on ketamine in the Purge event, has overdosed. Everything since the Uncanny Streets has been ENA's final narcotic dream. As she walks through these familiar areas, she sees rain rocks, meaning that consequences are due to appear soon. ENA then has a call with Froggy. This call might be real, and ENA is high during it. Hence why ENA seems to be so obviously hinting towards killing the boss and giving away her plan.
Our business with the boss is our next priority. He will be down the drain in no time.
After this, she enters the area from Auction Day. There are the same stones we saw in the episode watching a movie. This is likely ENA's life flashing before her eyes as she gradually gives way to unconsciousness. There are references to all sorts of characters we have seen in the game. ENA is viewing her memories one last time. We also find here the son of the cloud that we saw before. Now, this cloud being here sadly means that he has passed away, likely due to an overdose. Eventually, cubes, rain rocks, cloud ENA's vision. Her time is soon. ENA tries to leave through the lonely door to wake up, but the door is closed. The rain rocks then completely cover her vision. Now, how does it end? ENA wakes up trapped in rain rocks and breaks into a mannequin. She is then grabbed by a hand into a door in the same area where we saw those dead ENAs in Temptation Stairway. ENA has overdosed and has now become one of the many who have died of addiction. But what happens if we don't make it to the bathroom? If ENA fails to make it to the bathroom, she ends up here, in a strange castle area. There are small gummy bear-like creatures that tell ENA what house to go into. This represents how ENA maybe failed to make it to the place she does her narcotics, and is instead just dealing with a massive hangover, and needs to rely on others to tell her which way to go to get to her house. The green gummy bears represent people who don't want to help ENA and lead her astray, while the yellow gummy bears represent ENA's neighbors who care about her getting home safely. Now it's time for my most favoritist character in this entire game and the show and everything. Well, this character, Nonky Jong, is my #1 favorite. He holds absolutely no lore significance, despite having 175 lines of dialogue. Yet I love him. The stories that he tells makes me entirely invested in his character, and I can't help but listen. He is behind one of the many doors in the castle area in case you want to meet him and hear his story for yourself. Now, another character we find in this castle area is a person by the name of Frank the Unforgiven. This is the guy we saw mentioned by Theodora. Now, so far, I have been pretty cryptic with my lore, and I have been leaving out a very big part of my theory until now. You see, when I was making the script for these videos, I wanted to use something to help act as an example of the depth of the cartel that ENA was working for. You may have noticed that throughout this video and the last, I have been using music and screenshots from the game Ready or Not. Ready or Not is a game where you act as a SWAT officer in a decaying city. It is my favorite game of all time, and I initially wanted to use Ready or Not because it contained very accurate representations of how modern cartels are run. However, as I continued my comparisons, more things started to connect too much. Things like people, places, and dates. Before I knew it, I had accidentally found out that ENA is actually in the same universe as Ready or Not. I mean, just listen to this audio I found in Ready or Not.
I was tied to a table. Julio was there, but so was this other guy, Frank. That's all he goes by. Nobody ever sees him, but we all know what he does. He's a surgeon and a butcher in one. I was in the attic. It's where she used to live. Now it's where they take the people they need information from. The rest is a blur. I can't remember anything after I fell through the attic. I remember seeing her up there, but it couldn't have been. She'd been quiet for too long. Maybe I was seeing things. But the next thing I knew, I was in the hospital. Ain't never been happier to see the cops in all my life.
Now, throughout Ready or Not, there's a cartel that you fight called the Los Locos. However, it is hinted that this cartel is being controlled by something much larger. This mysterious international shadow cartel is the cartel ENA is working for. Just listen to this explanation of how the cartel is run, found in Ready or Not.
Thanks to conversations between Reed and some agents across FISA and other agency teams, we've managed to get enough intel to form a picture of what's going on. Following information gathered at the Caesars car dealership in North Hills, we understand that there's a significant transnational deal going down tonight at Port Hoken, right here in the city. Seems that a group of local arms dealers have been stockpiling large quantities of modified weapons to be sent to cartels and smugglers in Mexico, fueling tensions along our border. This group is using a series of Russian container ships to haul cargo all across the western seaboard. We've located and traced cargo arriving in Vancouver and all the way down to Colombia. This is a big operation. We estimate over $1 million worth of product every few weeks in exchange here. It's been going on for quite some time. Most, if not all, of the cargo is coming out of this singular point of exchange at the port of Los Sueños. The port is a busy place. It's running day and night, and it's about 7,500 acres of space. I don't think there's a need for me to stress how important this mission is.
Frank worked for the cartel as a brutal interrogator. However, he was captured by police and made an example of. His body was severely damaged, hence the metal parts, and his eyes were removed. Now he remains, yet he seems remorseful. Now, if ENA gets the correct house, she then moves into this area, a sort of canal. This represents ENA writing out the drugs that she ingested. This is her final high. There are these strange creatures that peer in through holes in this canal section. These represent the manic version of ENA watching her as her life fades away. Now after this section, ENA enters a large water area with a broken Theodora in the middle of a floor with engravings that appear to make a large brain. This shows how ENA is coming face to face with her thoughts. Theodora says that ENA is too far from her physical form and cannot reach the smoke. Theodora gives ENA another chance and allows her to see what would have happened if she reached the bathroom. This is ENA's body allowing her to continue just a little longer to reach the end. These floating creatures represent ENA's final fleeting thoughts. After this, we end up back at the smoke machine, and the game continues as normal. Okay, so some of you might be a bit lost after all of that, so let's summarize this whole thing. ENA is tasked by her manager Froggy to find the boss of her company to present a bold business idea. However, ENA secretly works for a cartel, the same shadow cartel as in Ready or Not, and wants to kill the boss. However, ENA gets sidetracked by wanting to somehow convince those she once respected in her life, all of whom are now dead, that she can be forgiven. She really is just trying to forgive herself, but wants some form of manifestation of her memories to speak with. Now, the ascent path is ENA trying to use antipsychotic meds to get herself to a stable place in her mind to sort herself out and possibly seek help. However, she obtained these meds from an unlicensed dealer, and they were laced with something, and she overdosed. Purge event is ENA turning away from her job and going to the cartel to use drugs so she can get so deep inside her thoughts so that she can manifest her loved ones forgiving her. She then overdoses on these drugs. Both paths lead to an overdose. She tries to remain in control, yet she is unable to. She either reaches the bathroom, manifests her memories, or fails and stumbles back to her house. Regardless of what happens, she does not get forgiven and sends one last call to her boss after getting rid of the bureaucratic smoke keeping her from her boss by killing the person writing the bureaucracy for her company. She then proceeds to have flashbacks of her journey and finally dies of an overdose. She then becomes just like all the mannequins, people who have died of their addictions, and is sucked into a door never to be seen again. But wait! She is seen again. From this point onward, all my theories just start diving into unconfirmed speculation. Why on earth is ENA alive again? Who is ENA's boss? What is the power of potluck, the only ENA episode we have yet to cover? What are some of the strange things in the trailer not yet seen in the game? What is Green ENA? What is the random genie found out of bounds in the castle area? Where is the barbecue? So many questions and so few answers. That, my friends, is for part 3. I thank you all for watching this theory video on ENA's Dream BBQ. And next week will be the third and final part to the series. Now in the third and final part, we're going to be discussing alternate theories, answering some unanswered questions, and answering your comments, addressing the power of potluck, the final thing we haven't covered yet. However, it's going to primarily be speculation, as from this point on, things start to get uncertain, and there's going to be certain things that we're not going to know until either the next episode of the YouTube series comes out, or the next chapter of the game comes out. Once again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you leave a like and subscribe, and also don't forget to share this with your friends and anyone you think might be interested. Don't spam it on people's discords or whatever and get banned, but share it with anyone you think might be interested. Anyways, I will see you in the next video. So long.